But there are a lot of things about Rudy probably that we didn't know before, including he has a BS degree from Cornell University and an MS degree from the University of Connecticut. He's a motivational speaker and a business coach, helping individuals and organizations handle change effectively. In his Rotary life, he's a member of the Rotary E Club of World Peace and in District 5330. He was the district governor in 2015 to 16. He was the convener of the Rotary World Peace Conference in 2016, named as a presidential peace conference, and Rotary World Peace Conference in 2020. He is the co-chair for RLI, that's where many of you have seen him, and chair of strategic planning in Rotary District 5330. Rudy is a board member of Planet Life, that is PLANIT, not our planet. Plan It Life, a nonprofit organization that manages group homes for foster children with advanced social problems. He's a member of Mediators Beyond Borders International. So I don't know how he has time for Rotary, but we are so happy to see you, Rudy. Thank you so much for coming to talk to us.
No, thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. We have, if it wasn't for Zoom, I don't know what I'd do each day without 4 or 5 Zoom calls. So it's all good. And how many here have had their, are getting ready or got their vaccinations yet?
I got mine.
You got yours?
I got mine.
Yeah, Karen and I got our first one scheduled for next week, so we'll see.
Good.
So that'll be good.
Her head, so.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, this morning, this happens to be the theme of this month in Rotary is peace building and conflict resolution. So it's kind of an important month that way. And so I think there's probably not a better topic to talk about. That's probably peace. Everything's pretty peaceful out there, right? We don't need any more peace, right? But I'm sure we do. So I'm going to share my screen here if John is allowing me to. Looks like that's correct. So this saying, there we go. Whoops. Go back one. So for those that can see my screen here, we do have projects you can join into with peace. And so I'm going to run through a lot of areas that we as Rotarians can get involved with to create peace. And in our clubs, out in our communities, connecting with other Rotarians around the world. And there's a heck of a lot of opportunities out there, and we in our district need to take more advantage of those. First is, if you look at the object of Rotary, if you number 4 down there, why we started back in 1905 was for the advancement of international understanding, goodwill, and peace through a world fellowship of business and professional persons united in the ideal of service. And so making those relationships, when you're out in your community doing service projects, that's creating peace in your community. It's that personal connection out there. And whether we're doing that locally or globally, makes a huge, huge difference. And so we're built on, as Rotarians here around the world, to create peace in the world. That's our goal. And you recited the 4-way test this morning. I think the most important thing is that not only just recite it, but that you live it. So people see that in your actions, when you're out in the community, when you're dealing with another business person, and ethics in your own business as you're out there, and how you treat other people every day tells us, here's what Rotary stands for, and I want to be a part of Rotary because they're an ethical organization, and the members there have ethics in what they do and how they treat other people. And so how do we create peace? Obviously, I mentioned service. You probably participated in Temecula Sunrise Club here in Global Grants. I'll get into that in a minute. Friendship exchange. You know that we, any one of us here, as soon as COVID-19 is back down again, can get involved with a friendship exchange to another country and be home hosted by Rotarians in another country. And we bring other Rotarians from outside of the United States into our district and home host them there here as well. And Lad Seekins is in charge of that program. So if you need more information, check with Lad. Vocational training teams is a good way to use our vocation to help other people, and that's creating peace. So similarly, down in Haiti, we sent a vocational training team of doctors and nurses to train other doctors and nurses in how to do pap smears, cervical cancer surgeries, and those kind of things. And so that training, using our ability and expertise to help train other people, is creating peace in those areas. International conferences and conventions. You heard mentioned that we had hosted 2 right here in Southern California, our Rotary World Peace Conferences, and certainly a good way to connect. But also now our Rotary Peace Fellows last year put on a cyber peace conference online, 24 hours around the planet. And right now they're working on doing another one for this year. So it's an amazing thing, our ability to connect around the globe here on those. And hopefully some of you have been to an international convention, maybe when it was in Los Angeles, but this year it's going to be virtual again in Taiwan. But we're hoping that when we're back live, that we'll have a huge contingent of us from District 5330 go to Houston and enjoy each other. And I think that's that relationship, seeing 30,000 Rotarians from all over the world, making those international connections and cultures and languages, but it connects us as Rotarians out there, is a great way to create peace. International e-clubs. Our clubs now are meeting online. We have the e-club of World Peace that we started in 2016 after the Peace Conference, but there are about 300 e-clubs around the world. We actually are working on cataloging those clubs. There's about a half a dozen of us on a team to learn from each other, from fundraising, service projects, learn about each other, and have a more of a connection on that with e-clubs international. And certainly youth exchange. And you may have hosted a youth exchange student in your own home. And we have those often right now with COVID-19. Of course, everything is shut down, but once we get back together, we've had students from our district go to another country and be home hosted by a parent over there during the school year. And we've also brought youth back here to the United States from another country. And it's a great way for us to learn about them and create lifelong friendships, but also connect with their family, because when they go back home, they let their family know how great it was to be here in the United States and be in District 5330 and how great Rotarians are. So it's a beautiful process there. Global scholars. Outside of the Peace Fellows, we also are able to have global grants to fund master's or PhD programs for global scholars. And Peace Fellows, I'll mention that in a minute right now. We've got almost 1,400 Peace Fellows out there from our 7 Peace Centers. Rotary Fellowships. There are several out there. Some of you may hear be part of the beer drinking one or the Flying Rotarians, but there are some other ones that are related to peace. Rotary action groups are a good way to connect on those things that you enjoy together and work on projects. Intercountry committees. You might not know much about that, but we have Rotary intercountry committees. We have one between the U.S.-Russia intercountry committee. We were talking with a Russian Rotary club in St. Petersburg. They have one between Russia and Italy, an intercountry committee with Rotarians. And so it's a great way to connect on a different level to work on projects together. And our Rotary Representative Network, we just learned about that the other day, is at the United Nations. We have about 30 Rotarians that have been assigned down there by the Rotary International president each year to be on different committees. One of those happens to be for women, and one of our Peace Fellows, Anna Patel, with Outward Bound Peace Building, just got named to be on that committee at the UN for women's rights, which is really, really cool. I'm sure you know about UN and Rotary. Back in 1945, about 50 Rotarians came together up in San Francisco. We're part of writing the Charter for the United Nations. And so we've had a very close relationship with the United Nations since that time. Every year there's a Rotary Day at the UN. Of course, all these things are, because of COVID-19, don't happen in person right now. UNESCO is one of the branches we work with, and that's the education side of the United Nations. And Rotary works very closely with them. UNICEF and World Health Organization, as you know, we work closely with our polio eradication efforts. And so those are very important areas here that help us get these vaccines for a variety of things. And I believe we're going to have another big program in the future here to work on a big grant in the health area. The UNHCR, that's a refugee agency. And certainly we stay connected with them. FAO is food and agriculture. We know that it's important today to feed our growing population on the planet. And we're about to have another billion people on the planet, so we need to figure out how we're going to feed those. The World Bank, we've had Rotarians that are actually have worked at the leadership in the World Bank. They help fund multi-billion-dollar projects that change lives around the world. The Sustainable Development Goals are in alignment with our areas of focus and human rights, and certainly there's a Declaration of Human Rights that Rotary agrees with, and hope all Rotarians see. Well, the rights of all people as human beings here on the planet. We only have one planet. We're all human beings. We all breathe the same air and have to drink water and eat food and have shelter and warmth and earn a living to support our families. And those are individual rights for freedom, I think, that we would all agree about. As you know, we had 6 areas of focus, and we've just added the 7th, which is supporting the environment. So peace building, conflict prevention, disease prevention, treatment, water and sanitation, maternal and children's health, educational literacy, economic development, supporting the environment. Each one of those is connected with peace. If you remember back when Ian Riceley was our Rotary International president, he put on a series of 6 peace conferences. They were all based on these areas of focus and tied them to peace. And each one is. I mean, if we have a 7th of the world's population is illiterate, it's pretty tough to get peace going out there. And we know that we need more education, especially for girls, and so that they have the ability to go to school and learn, because we know that when girls learn, when they grow up to be a mom, they make sure their children are educated. And it perpetuates education and the rights of women with literacy and economic development here to have jobs and support their families. And supporting the environment, the newest one here, will be funded to start writing grants on that as of July 1 this coming year, which is the very newest one. So that is certainly a big area. So under global grants, under peace building, one of those that you can get involved with is fighting human trafficking. And Dan Goodrich and myself are working on one right now. You probably heard about it. A global grant, reverse one, come back here. And we're going to provide training to teachers, to about 5,000 teachers and over 50,000 students in 165 schools in Riverside and San Bernardino counties. And that will happen once that gets approved during the next 2 school years. COVID has kind of spread that out once that gets approved. But if you have any DDF left, you'd like to support this, that'd be great. And the other piece of this is looking at, once we get this started, being down in Temecula, wholesome community events to educate the community and parents and teachers and everybody in the community and business leaders on what to see about human trafficking, so that they're aware of it and can bring more connection there as Rotary taking leadership on this. Mediation training, and certainly there are global grants out there to do mediation training, and they've been help us led by Mediators Beyond Borders in Africa and some other parts of the world, where women are now being trained in mediation and in tough war zones are helping mediate conflict in these areas. And we know that all the women out here know that the guys would get out of the way, we would already have peace in the world, because women are strong peacemakers. Positive Peace Workshop, that's part of the Institute for Economics and Peace. And we have several hundred now positive peace activators out there that can do training and put on workshops and put them under grants. And that's bringing these positive peace, and I'm mentioning these pillars of positive peace to bear to create peace in your city. We had Jody Olson, the director of the Peace Corps, on one of our meetings recently on our E-Club. And she mentioned, we have, once Peace Corps members are able to get back out in the field again from the United States around the world, they work on projects in different areas. And so helping them connect with either Rotary clubs in their area that they're working on a project in their country, or us connecting from here to help them with a project is I think, a future growth area with our connection with the Peace Corps. We actually have some former Peace Corps members, I think 3 in our E-Club. District grants and projects. I encourage you to do in your schools, once we're open back up, to do some anti-bullying training. And we have several people who can come in and do that in your schools down in Temecula. and work on that, because bullying today is out of control because of what's being bullied online with smartphones now, and these apps out there, and kids are hurting themselves and taking their own lives as a result of it. And so it's very important to get anti-bullying training in, and Rotary needs to take a leadership on this, as well as the anti-gang training. And we know that gang activity in our counties here is pretty high. And so helping our kids do the right thing and not get caught up in gangs is good. Suicide prevention is another one that you can help with. Child and spousal abuse programs. And those are some education you can put on your community. And I encourage those right now because of COVID-19. We know there are increased rates in suicide as well as child abuse. Spousal abuse is at an all-time high because people are at home when they normally would get out, and the tensions are higher in the homes. And also, you can work on putting in your schools here peer mediation. And Mediators Beyond Borders will help us do that, where they come educate the students and the teachers and counselors on how to put that in the schools, so that the students help mediate conflict between other students in a positive way and create peace in your schools, which is kind of a neat program. I mentioned Rotary Action Groups, and I don't know how many are involved with Rotary Action Group, but there's a whole slew of Rotary Action Groups. Around the peace area here, there's basically 4. One is on domestic violence protection, and that's the Rotary Action Group for Family Safety. And I encourage you to get involved with that group, Rotary Action Group for Family Safety. There's a Rotary Action Group for Peace that you can get involved with. There's the one on Rotary Action Group Against Slavery, and that's one that takes on human trafficking. And that actually started over in Atlanta, Georgia, with a Rotarian, Dave McCleary over there, who's the president of that one, the chair of that one. But it's Rotary is really working hard on this human trafficking area and saving lives out there. So I encourage you to do that, get involved. And the other one, just brand new, is on refugees, forced displacement, and immigration. And we know that we have a huge amount of refugee crisis here right now going on, but also because of climate change coming, they're expecting in the next 10 years it to overtake the amount of refugees from conflict. So there will be somewhere between 30 to 50 million people displaced because of rising sea levels and drought in areas where crops can't grow anymore, and they have to go try to find a way to raise food and shelter. Fellowships, I mentioned the beer drinking one, that usually creates peace. But 2 under peace here are Rotarians Against Racism, and this is brand new in the last 6 months. And it's a great group to getting together and sharing information, so to learn more about ourselves and in our communities out here, and how do we fight racism in our communities. And the other one is on elimination of nuclear weapons. And we know what can happen if one of those ever gets let loose again. Could wipe us all out in the planet as well. The Rotary Action Group for Peace, if you join that one, there's some areas you can be. Your club could become a peace builder club and connect with about 200 or 300 other peace builder clubs out there to learn how to work together to create peace in your community. You connect with their Peace Fellows. They have a group of a listing there of the Peace Fellows with their addresses and everything to get in touch with. Also connect with other peace builders, as I mentioned, with the other clubs. You could work together with your clubs down there in Temecula to see if you can work with the city government and the community to pull them together and become an international city of peace. If you need information on that, we actually have 2 of our members have international cities of peace. One is up in Ojai, and the other is in Ashland, Oregon. It's a great way to bring your community together. It also is good for your economy, because when you have a sign outside entering, just like a Rotary sign, but you have another sign out there that says Temecula is an international city of peace. People want to buy a house there. They want to live there, and they want to have raise their family there. And so it really is good for your community. The other one is a Peace Pole project. If you know about peace poles, they're about 8 foot high. You do them in 4 languages on each side. And it has a message, a peace message on it. You can have them put in at your schools or a city park, somewhere that promotes peace and understanding. You might know that Rotary has partners, and some of those partners are the Peace Corps, is one of our original partners that partners with Rotary. The other one you've heard about is Shelter Box, and your club's probably bought a Shelter Box maybe in the past, and you know about those. So Shelter Box is basically all the materials you need that that volunteers deliver this to the area after a flood, a hurricane, a conflict crisis. If you look at some of these refugee camps, you'll see shelter boxes there. Inside is a tent, cooking supplies, sleeping supplies, water filtration, the whole thing you need to survive out there. And again, volunteers take that in these areas. Some carry it on their back. They carry them on a raft. They carry them on a mule. Different ways to get them back into where they're needed to be and teach people how to use them. The other one is the Institute for Economics and Peace. That's a think tank out of Australia. You probably heard of Steve Collet's group. They're a partner with us. And they also have training online at Rotary.org under the training thing on peace literacy that you can take. But they have the Positive Pillars of Peace and their peace index that they developed to look at ways to take on and create peace. Mediators Without Borders recently joined in, and they have members around the world, mediators, and get involved in crisis. We have, right now, they're working actually, working with our polio eradication efforts and the group over in Pakistan, because we know that if we had peace in Pakistan and Afghanistan, we've already wiped out polio. So they are working on how to reduce conflict in some of these areas, as well as programs right here in our own country. The Global Peace Index is a way to look at the most peaceful countries versus those that are not as peaceful. And it's based on a lot of issues. It's based on terrorism threats and terrorism in your country, the amount you spend on the military, the amount you spend on police, and how many people are incarcerated. And you notice the dark green here in Canada, down in Australia. So there's a few very peaceful spots. The biggest red over there you see in Russia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, some in Middle East and Africa. But you don't, our country is not is yellow there. It's not dark green. So we know we have issues right here in the US of A. And one of the issues we have is that we have 5% of the world's population, but 20% of the world's incarcerated people. We have 20% of the world's people that are in prisons and jails right here in the United States of America. And so we have some work to do in the land of the free, in the home of the brave here. We've got some work to do, and Rotary needs to help take the lead on some of these issues to help keep people out of prison the first time and make sure that if they get out, they don't go back in. And some of that starts with our youth in our cities to make the right decisions in school. On the positive side, I mentioned the Sustainable Development Goals, but the other are the Positive Pillars of Peace. And we're looking at, see if we can find a city here in our district that would like to work together with Positive Peace activators to work on these things, whether that's in Temecula or San Bernardino or one of our cities that needs some help. Starts with a well-functioning government, equitable distribution of resources. That's healthcare, food, water, sanitation, education, all those kind of resources, be able to earn a living, free flow of information and truth up in both directions, good relations with all the neighbors there, taking value of people's human capital. Each of us has a vocation and things that we can share back in, and putting those into effect to make a positive change in your community. The acceptance of the rights of others, low levels of corruption, and a sound business environment. We need to be able to support businesses and have businesses in there that want to come to our cities and want to hire our local people here to continue to grow our economy. And that creates positive peace when you pull those things all together. And it fits in very closely with our areas of focus. Fit in very nicely with this. So Rotary is on the same page with this. Our Peace Fellowships, and it's open right now, just opened up here in February for applications for the 3-month certificate program or our master's program. And it's designed to create peace in the world and put a group of peace builders out there that are educated to help take this on. We are partnered with 7 universities for this training. And we have 5 of those are, excuse me, our master's program. There's one in Duke UNC. In fact, tonight at our Rotary Club of World Peace, the director of Duke UNC will be speaking to us, Susan Carroll.
And they're invited.
And you're welcome to come join us. If you need the link, email me and I'll get that for you. If you'd like to join us tonight, 6:30 p.m. tonight. If you're from the United States, you can't go to Duke UNC, you have to go to another country. And so we also, there's one in Bradford, and we had a Peace Fellow just this year starting there that was our district sponsored from Fontana. So it's pretty neat. We've got it, and there's only about 100 accepted every year. So this is an amazing thing that we have another one now, and we have working on another one in the pipeline, maybe even in a year or two. There's one in Sweden, International University over in Japan, University of Queensland in Australia. And then we have a 3-month certificate program in Thailand. And we also have a brand new 3-month certificate program in Kampala, Uganda at Makerere University that just started up. And so we're very excited about adding that one on. They are looking down the road in 3 to 5 years of adding one in the Middle East, finding the right location, and one in Central or South America. Those are both areas that are needed for peace centers, and I suspect we will make that happen. These are, again, about 100 are selected each year, half for the master's program and half for the 3-month certificate program. They're very intense studies, and the 3-month certificate program in particular is just not there for 3 months to get a certificate. They actually have to have a project that they take on of major impact, go do the project, and then report back on it. And so it's a very hands-on learning process in there. There's a few things they have to have, of course, a proficiency in English, some leadership skills. The master's program, they need a bachelor's with 3 years of work experience related. And the certificate program, academics, but also 5 years of work experience in the arena of peace that are related to that. So it's a very, for the number of applicants we get in versus how many get accepted, there's a very, it's a very elite group that get out there. And now we have nearly 1,400 alumni, and they're scattered all over the world here. And we just at Rotary International in the last year, I think it's about the last year, they now have a gentleman, Bill Rintz, is in charge of the Rotary Peace Fellow Alumni Association. And I mentioned they put on a cyber peace conference in the last year online. And that was, he was able to pull those peace fellows together to organize and put that on. And they're very interested in working with us on projects around the world. And they understand that they've had an opportunity that Rotary paid for, and they want to give back and help us. And now with Bill Rintz there, they're getting very focused, and we're looking for some big things to come out of our Peace Fellows. And as you can see here, about almost a third are from North America that have graduated, 20% here in Asia. And if you look at number when they're back out there working, they're working in nonprofits in the peace field, as well as government agencies, almost half of them. And the rest are scattered around other work. But they're doing very important work. They are an amazing group of individuals. We do have 2 Peace Fellows in our E-Club of World Peace as members, and which is pretty rewarding. So that's kind of where we are. I'm going to do a stop share here. So I know that was a lot of information, but there's a lot of things you can get involved with in peace. As I mentioned, part of that is helping with the 4-way test, maybe a kind word down the street. It may be noticing maybe a neighbor that all of a sudden she has a black eye and something happened at home and she needs help. And maybe it's that kind word, not just asking, how are you today, but getting a little more involved in the conversation that understand what's going on with that person. You might save their life. Or you might decide to put on a program at your local school once we're back in line here for anti-bullying, or join one of those fellowships or action groups. But as Rotarians, I think one of the biggest things is our being able to connect with each other. Our E-Club World Peace has just connected with, we've had our first meeting with, the second meeting with the Rotary Club of St. Petersburg, Russia. And we've had our first meeting with 3 clubs together in Vladivostok, Russia. And so we're looking at working on, as citizens here from both sides, how do we connect back together? And I was just on a call. I gave the same talk to a Rotaract club in Kampala. And so we're looking at setting up a meeting with our club members with Rotaractors in Kampala. And so I encourage you online right now, is no better time than to reach out with somebody you may have met from another country in Rotary and make that connection and have all of a sudden arrange a meeting and get together online. There's no better way to connect and learn about each other and learn our cultures and create better understanding of the world and our ability to do that. And I believe there's no better organization in the world to create peace than Rotary. And so thanks for being in Rotary, and enjoyed meeting with you this morning.
Thank you so much, Rudy. A lot of information new to me as a president.
Me too.
Yes, I was going to ask our past president, Mark, Roger, Jimmy, did we ever participate in the shelter box? I'm interested in.
Yes.
We have?
Yeah. Yes, we have.
And I that's my first contribution when there's a disaster. That's what I contribute to before anything else.
So
Personally,
Rudy, do we apply somewhere for the shelter box? Who puts that together?
We have, I believe we have a representative here in our district. I'll get that information for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Before the end of the year, you know, my year, so our club, we'll bring it to the club and see if we can do another project with that.
Can I ask a question, Rudy? When you get together with a club, they have to be able to speak English, don't they? Or how does that work?
We have, actually, we have a woman lives up in the Bay Area that is from Russia. So she helps us with interpretation, but also, especially the clubs in Vladivostok, there's, a lot of them speak English. So it was not as big a deal as you'd think it was. And with the, we have some interpreters also with the club when we meet with the St. Petersburg one. I said we've done that twice now. And so we actually had the discussion this past week. We had a meeting with them, and I asked about, we talked about what's going on with COVID-19 there and here was the topic we discussed. And they've got 3 vaccines out. They're just rolling out. We have the same amount of challenges there as here, including people that don't want to wear a mask and don't want to distance, and some don't want to get the vaccination. But there was a doctor, actually a member of their club, that deals with pulmonology. And so he was very up to date and up to speed on what's going on with COVID-19 there. And so it was interesting. You know, sometimes we think there's differences other places. It's people are the same pretty much around the world, regardless of what language they speak. And it's great that connection. And, you know, I think our citizenry are the ones ultimately to create peace. And I think Rotary takes a lead on that. Our governments get tangled up in their, trip over their own feet, I think. And there's a whole lot more citizens than people in government. And so as Rotarians and citizens around the world, the more we can connect and create this understanding and help diffuse any false information out there, I think the better.
I can envision our getting together with a club in Mexico. We have our own built-in translators.
Yes. Siempre aquí para ustedes, para servirles. Spanish, right, Mark?
Yes.
In Taiwan, we have our own Chinese speaking person too.
Yes.
没问题
Which means?
no problem.
No problem.
Shay, Shay.
Hey, we need to start doing that. We'll teach you a little words here and there. That'd be great. Anyone else have questions for Rudy?
Jimmy.
Me,
Jimmy.
past governor, after the elections, I mean before, even though now, don't you feel the whole nation in America still has lots of conflict between two party, you know, divided? I was wondering if RI or Rotaries, we ever think about, should we do something I mean, it seems like, even though in Taiwan, people still ask me, oh, in America, well, the election seems like very tough, and they divided into like two extreme group. Well, I don't know if any did Rory do anything about that. Do we think this is an issue that we need to bring up more peace between?
Oh, definitely. But you won't hear that at Rotary International, but it's up to us as clubs to do that. Some of it's within our own clubs, but then it's also creating this open discussions out in the community in a way that's not threatening to each other, in a way that you're trying to understand how one side came to that belief and how the other side came to belief, and accepting each other's truth, and then finding a way of common ground as humans here. How do we work together? Because we still want, good education for our kids. We still want to be able to eat our restaurants of choice, earn a living, and all the different things we do as human beings, work together in our communities and those kind of things. So Mediators Beyond Borders has put a program together that we can use and learn on it and use it out in our communities, and with Rotarians taking the lead on that. Joan Blades with Living Room Conversations, we met and she spoke at our peace conference in 2020. And she's developed a program here for us to put in that we can use. It's really a scripted program that you can actually go online to Living Room Conversations and download the program. And she actually, I had her develop one for the 4-way test. And so that's on there also that you're able to get to. And then the group was called Better Angels. Now it's Better something. They changed their name from Better Angels, and they do the same thing. So there's, I know of at least 3 organizations that we can work with us taking the lead on that. So that's certainly there. The other one that Rotary's involved with, you'll hear more about, is diversity, equity, and inclusion. I noticed there's they're doing open webinars, was monthly or quarterly, just came out of Rotary International, but also up with our Rotaractors up in Big West Rotaract up in the Northwest, set up a diversity, equity, inclusion committee in Rotaract to open up these discussions. And you saw the fellowship there on Rotarians Against Racism. In our club, we've just set up a DEI and social justice committee. They're very early in the process, but it's really learning first before we step forward. We know there's a lot of division, and I think it's up to us. You look at the mix of folks here this morning, and we continue to look out in our communities. How do we make sure we represent, as Rotarians, all sectors of society? All cultures, all races, all religions. Even though we're not a political or religious organization, that doesn't mean we shouldn't look like our communities that we live in. And so I encourage us to be open and reaching and connecting, and that'll break down some of these barriers. If we exemplify through the 4-way test and our actions of doing the right thing and treating each other with respect, we'll break these barriers down. It's going to take time. This didn't happen overnight. And we know there's a lot of deep-rooted issues out there that are going to take a long time. But here locally, I believe that we can begin to take the lead on some of these things and break these down. So there are tools out there. If you need contacts for those, let me know. I'll connect you. So
yeah, it seems like lots of families, between family members, you just cannot bring up that political issues. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, we got lucky this year because we couldn't meet in person on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, really.
Thank you.
Yeah, we all know it's real. We don't need to hide from it. So we just have to figure that out. At the end of the day, we as human beings, we want the same thing, and just don't get hung up on all the other stuff. So. There's some neat things out there. So if you need information or you need to contact anybody on it, I'll find out our contact here for Shelter Box, because we have a person in the district here. We're in Southern California, at least.
That'd be great. And also, just to let you know that we are going to participate with the DDF of the Global Grant. That has been signed at that, and I forwarded to our district governor-elect, Dan Goodrich,
Okay, good.
DDF, to be part of this great cause that you guys are going to be doing for human trafficking.
No, thank you. Yeah, it's an amazing undertaking. It's going to be, but it should be very impactful once we're able to get it out there.
Yes. Don, you had a question?
I had a question about the Peace Fellowship programs. Are those exclusively through Rotary, or if somebody else outside of Rotary wanted to participate in that, could they participate in go to one of those schools and participate in one of those programs?
Well, these schools have their own, outside of Rotary curriculum that's been developed. They have peace and conflict education in these schools. That's one of the reasons they're selected. But we've helped them develop the curriculum that also ties in with our expectations there. So they've modified that. But if you're a Rotarian or any relation to a Rotarian, you're not eligible to attend there on a Rotary Peace Fellowship because we can't, as Rotarians, use any Rotary Foundation money that we've given out there for our own personal gain. And so it has to be somebody that's not a Rotarian that would apply. And so we help find those people to apply.
Okay. So like our Interact students and Rotaract?
They have to be graduates, don't
They have to be graduates now. So in the 3-month certificate program, they have to have some college education there, but then they have to have 5 years of work experience somewhere around peace and mediation and conflict resolution, whether it's with a nonprofit or the government or, a college or university or, something else out in the field. They have to, these are highly qualified folks that apply to get accepted. Under the master's program, obviously they have to have a bachelor's degree already, and then 3 years of experience out in the field. But there are places that'll hire out there that'll help them get that 3 years experience. So I would say encourage your interactors, those that want to get in this area, to go to college and get their bachelor's degree to begin with, and then help coach them this direction, as well as they can go in the field of mediation, for instance, in some of these other areas that fit in here, but also with your Rotaractors. And that's one area that we're not real strong in our district is Rotaract, but hopefully we'll begin to connect better with colleges. But Rotaractors, especially at college, if you connect with them and look at what courses they're taking to develop themselves, so they would be in line for this, but also encourage them and find areas that they could find work after their bachelor's degree that would get them the experience they need to apply. I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Yeah, that definitely helps.
It came through the email this past week, and I forwarded the application to all of you so you could be thinking about if you knew anybody that might qualify for this. And so I sent it out to everybody, but of course, some people just hit delete. I won't name any names.
Okay, I didn't delete your message. So.
Okay.
I didn't delete it. I just haven't been on a computer.
Oh. And if you need more information, connect with Karen. She's our district peace chair here, and she'll help with, if you have an applicant in, she's working right now with an applicant we have to try to understand if she has enough experience to apply for the 3-month certificate program. It's pretty
Rudy,
close.
what's her title? What chair?
She's the peace. She's our peace chair for the district.
Okay.
Why don't you send them a link to what you sent to
Marty, I'll send you another some other information on that as well.
Okay.
That has a lot of information on Peace Center, Peace Fellow. And I'm going to be putting something, Barry Valdez asked me to write up an article on peace for the district newsletter to come out here in a couple of weeks. And so I'll also put information in there as well.
It's just really up to us to keep our eyes open for somebody who we think would qualify and would like to do this, and approach them about it and ask them if they are interested.
Right. And I think some of it might even be if we have connections with some of our local colleges and universities that have some training in mediation or pre-law or conflict resolution as part of their studies, those kind of things. But let them know that we have this program out there, and they may have alumni who they know are already out in the field working that they could recommend to us.
Rudy, what about grandchildren of
No.
Rotarians? No?
No.
Okay.
No.
That's a good question, Marty. Anyone else have any further questions for Rudy?
Can I just comment that I had no idea all this was out there? Does this go under foundation, or what is it under at Rotary?
So it's there actually is in the last 2 years here, they've invested in people to support these programs. So Fergal Mccarthy is in charge of all the peace efforts out of Rotary International. That's separate from the foundation.
Okay.
And he is a member of our E-Club. And I mentioned Bill Rintz works for Fergal, that's working with the Peace Fellow alumni. Summer Lewis, who's a Peace Fellow, you might have met her at the Peace Conference in 2016 or 2020, but Summer Lewis is now working out of RI in charge of, she's the person that works directly with Rotary International and Institute for Economics and Peace. And so she helps put the programs together for training for positive peace activators who can help on projects out there that are trained under that process, working on inputting those positive pillars of peace. And they can put on training with youth on peace building classes. And we used them at the Peace Conference in 2020 when we had the Interact Peace Conference across the street, if you remember. A one-day one on that Saturday. We had peace activators, as well as 2 other Peace Fellows, Anna Patel with Outward Bound Peace Builders and Patricia Schaefer with New Gen Peace Building. So that they rotated through 3 different peace building programs. So the students were exposed to a lot of skill sets around peace building. And we have one of those positive peace activators. I keep mentioning they're in our club, but that's our club we have 71 members now. Wow. And we have some amazing folks with very credentialed in the peace field. And Scott Martin works with the Mediators Beyond Borders, but he's a positive peace activator right here locally in Southern California that we can call on if we need some help in that arena. Chantel Vo is and he's a former Peace Fellow too. And Chantel in our club is a Peace Fellow and Peace Corps. She's due to have her second baby next week. So wow. we're getting some younger folks in, but so we'll all be aunts and uncles out there in our club. Yes. for the new baby Rotarian. And so yeah, so we have there's a lot of connections out there that we have and we build up, and Karen and I have built up, since 2016 with our peace conferences, putting on 2 peace conferences, and that reach and connections around the globe, people working on peace in these areas. So we have, so that's been good. And I think, when Ian Riceley made that connection between the peace area of focus and the other areas of focus, and the importance of each one of those things leading us to peace is important to keep that in mind. When we do our polio eradication efforts, that effort has created peace in the world. And President Ravindran from Sri Lanka negotiated peace for both sides, the terrorism side and the government side, to put down their weapons so they could immunize all the children in Sri Lanka to wipe out polio. And he negotiated that. And that's, that changed those kids' lives and saves those kids' lives forevermore. And so when our RI president, when he's allowed to travel again, visits countries, he visits with the presidents and the prime ministers and the leaders of these nations. And they appreciate what Rotary is doing and has done for their citizens, which are our citizens, and they're treated on a high level with deep respect for the work Rotary's doing out there. That creates peace in the world. And they know they can call on Rotary when they need something to happen and make it happen. They know who to call. In fact, they usually, the leader, when I asked one of the Rotary International presidents what they say to him, he says, "Thank you for all the work that Rotarians are doing, and here's a list of some other things we need help with." So it's you know, the world knows Rotary. Maybe everybody in our community here doesn't know us,
That's right.
but internationally, we are very highly respected as an organization, and we need to remember that and make sure we maintain that respect at home and get very involved with our community.
Well, that's how we moved out south, Salvador, when we came to the,
You know, from Karen just mentioned at the 2016 conference, we've had a lot of presentations on human trafficking, and Salvador Rico from the Ukiah Rotary Club in Northern California went through that training and went back home and found out that there were high school girls being kidnapped off the street into the sex trade. And he brought in I Empathize. It was an organization we worked with back then, and they came up and trained. He brought the community together, not just Rotarians, but Seroptimists and all the other organizations and the police and teachers and community all together. And they did training up there for the adults and then training for the youth. And they wiped it out up there and shut it down, shut that operation down.
Wow.
And then you need to see the power of when we do this education, it'll ripple down from just, won't be just the teachers and the students. It'll get back to the parents and the homes. And that's what we need. And so I think once we get this project going, that's why I think it's important to have community meetings about what to look for and get community support to help this too. If you look in the local paper recently here, they did a big raid in Riverside County. I think they arrested about 40 people or something, but you look at them, you know, these are people that might be trusted out on the street are the ones that are causing the problem. I have a list right here in front of me, but when I give the human trafficking presentation, I go through the list from the DA's office on the reports out there. You know, some of this data, it takes a while to get out there because some of it's privileged until they have the court cases. But these are people right in Temecula that have been arrested for trafficking, and children saved right here in our own district that have been trafficked. And so it's important. You mentioned Planet Life. Planet Life is the nonprofit up there working with our
high-risk foster kids.
high-risk foster kids. And Karen and I are on the board of that with Nyron McLean. You know Nyron and Sheila McLean. They're in Riverside Sunrise Club.
Okay.
And they operate those homes. We're on their board. And they have one girl in there in one of the homes that had been trafficked. And so they have trauma therapy that they work on with all these kids. And one of the other girls dressed scantily or something one night, and she went berserk. It just triggered her, and she broke windows and all kinds of stuff, went out of control. And they constantly have to keep an eye out to make sure that the girls aren't selling other girls to a pimp out there. Or being trafficked, and they have to constantly watch out for this. So it's alive and well. It's real stuff. When we spoke at the before the peace conference over in Marietta Club, I mentioned about human trafficking and kids playing online with their computers and their online games, and sometimes they think they're playing with a 5-year-old somewhere, and all of a sudden it turns out to be an adult on the other end that's trying to get them in some undress and take a photo of themselves online. And then trick them into being trafficked. It's a terrible thing.
You didn't talk about
These apps, and when the school superintendent was there at that meeting, and she said, "This is absolutely true." Said the other night, my daughter came running downstairs and said, "Mom, something's wrong." And she went upstairs and on her computer, it wasn't a young person on the other end. It was an adult trying to get her on some level of undress. Of course, they knew the hotline for the FBI, and she got a hold of him, and the guy got arrested.
Good.
But this is real stuff. So we need to spread the word to our kids and our grandkids, you know, and make sure they're not tricked and trapped into this. I mean, it's so easy. Once you have this smartphone, you know that Google knows where you are. They track you. They send me a note every month on where I've traveled. Now, I only went from my house over to the supermarket here locally since March, but this is but they track you. And so the same thing is true. If these guys are smart, they know exactly where these young people are located, their exact location. They can ping that phone and know whether they're on their computer, there's an address, there's on their smartphones, there's an address. And once they find out, then they threaten their families to trap them into doing something. And so it's a very sick business. And anyways, there's a lot we can help with out there, and the education is huge.
And tell them that we're gonna have the woman who was trafficked.
In fact,
So
we
Nyron's Planet Life there in Riverside?
yes, yeah, and they have 4
Life?
homes. They have one in where are their 4 homes?
Beaumont.
Yeah, Beaumont, Marietta.
I think they have one in Temecula.
I think they have one in Temecula too. There's 4 homes. There's 2 that have all boys and 2 have girls. And they're doing some great work there. Sheila is a licensed therapist, and so she's very trained in trauma therapy. So she is. They have one of the best programs out of that probably out there.
Now, what are these homes for? I'm sorry, Rudy. What?
These are for the toughest of the toughest foster kids. They've been kicked out of foster home after foster home after foster home. They've been in and out of juvenile, and this is their last step. They can't make it here. They will end up in jail,
Oh, wow.
or probably dead somewhere.
What is there a title? What is it sponsored by? Rotary?
No,
Most of the girls have been trafficked.
no. This is it's their private 501c3. They run these homes, and they're not called group homes anymore. They have to by state regulations, they have to provide the trauma therapy. So they are trying to help these kids through a lot of conflict. So it is a challenge. So they have a full-time staff stay in the homes. And they rotate out therapists, training. They teach them life skills, cooking, planning their own meals. They make sure they get their homework done. They take them also, just like they treat them like regular kids. So when they were back in school, they made sure the kids, when they were ready, went to the prom, bought them prom dresses and rented the tux for the guys. And they took them to, basketball games and Major League Baseball games, and, treat them like they were their own kids, like they hadn't been treated before. Because most of these kids have been taught they, no good and they weren't going to amount to anything, and they were just bounced around. And so they act out what they've learned, of course, and how they've been treated. And so it takes a long time to break that cycle.
We will invite them to speak at our club. Have we ever had them over?
I don't think so.
Planet Life. We were just talking about Nyron. I had early dinner with our district governor-elect Dan Goodrich yesterday, and we were just talking about, he mentioned Nyron, and so when you said Nyron, I'm like, oh, Planet Life.
Well, we've had Rancho Damacitas, which used to do that sort of thing.
Do they still do that? I don't think so.
Well, now, there was some state law that came up that, and I don't know how this other group is getting around that. But I don't remember the law. But so they had to go. Rancho Damacitas had to go change from a foster home like that.
The single moms.
To single moms, yeah.
Yeah, we had, I spoke, I won't mention the club, but spoke on human trafficking to a club the other night. And one of the women on there, adult women, Rotarians, broke down and told us all, she probably hadn't shared that out at her Rotary Club before, that she had been trafficked through 3 different gangs. She has 3 different gangs tattoos on her body.
Oh, wow.
And, we're all, we're choked up. It's one of those things, if you're in person, give her a big hug, right?
Exactly.
And it was just one of those real things, and it really puts reality out there. There's a lot of people every day that walk down the street that have inside them trauma they've gone through, and we never know. We don't know until we've said something. And she was so excited that Rotary was going to do something about human trafficking, and she was really. I'm glad you're taking on a major project like this because it's needed. I know how it happened to me, and I don't want to have anybody else have to go through this. And so it's we don't know when you walk down the street with somebody, and you've heard stories before about people that somebody ask them how you are today and have a little conversation, and they might have been thinking about committing suicide. We've heard plenty of stories that direction. And so it's really for us to not just superficially walk by somebody, but if we really want to know how are you, get down a little deeper. What's new today? What are you doing today? You start beginning to get some other questions and just how are you doing? It's easy to say, oh, I'm fine, I'm good. But if you really have a conversation, sometimes when they really need it, you'll hear them open up to you more. And that's you've allowed them that opportunity to say more. And it's really that learning about us as human beings, because we do need to connect. And right now is a challenge because of COVID, not being able to see people in person. But it's there's a lot of folks out there that are dealing with a lot of pain that we don't understand. That we've, especially the adults, we've been through a lot of different things in our life. We've seen different things. Each one of those sometimes builds and bottles up in different ways, and how we handle that internally that affect how we deal with things. So.
I was at that Zoom meeting, very touching.
Yep.
And your presentation was amazing.
No,
So
thank you.
we had Dan speak about the human trafficking. I don't believe he had a PowerPoint. John, do you remember if Dan Goodrich had a PowerPoint when he came and visited the club? I don't think, but I would love to have you back and speak about human trafficking sometime in March.
Okay.
Check your calendar, and we would love to have you back and speak and give us your presentation about human trafficking. It's very informative.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else before we move on?
Just thank you, Karen, too.
Thank you, Karen.
They thank you.
Oh, there she is.
She's hiding in my virtual background. There she is. She's got a floating head there and one over the lakes.
Yeah. There you are.
I can't escape. I can't get very far. She keeps a short leash on me. So
We share an office.
we're setting an office together, so we're arm's length from each other all day long, I think. So.
When you see Rudy turn to his left, that's where Karen is at.
Yeah, just when I turn this way, I'm looking for
When
you.
when he mutes and he turns to they're talking. Okay.
That's all good. It's great to see all of you.
Thank
you so much.
Well, I will join you this evening at 6:30 for your Zoom meeting.
Okay, great.
And anyone else, you guys are invited to join as well.